today we're going to look at Anakin Skywalker in Attack of the Clones. We're going to look at what we love about his character development, what we love about him as a character, because again, we could go on and on and on about some of these characters, so we really have to narrow it down. But yeah, today we're going to talk about Anakin in Attack of the Clones, which is one of my favorite movies, so I'm super excited, and Anakin's one of my favorite characters, so I'm ready.
Awesome. Well, kick it off.
You go first. Okay. Some things when I'm watching Attack of the Clones, intentionally looking at Anakin's development, what I see is rise up in him a lot is like his ego and his pride. I didn't see that as much in Phantom Menace. Like there's snippets of it, but you really see it start to rise up in Attack of the Clones. You see him become very prideful and feel like he's being held back and he's not noticed. And I think a lot of that can come also from his longing for a father, his longing to be recognized, his longing to be noticed. And I think he has some emotional needs that weren't being met, which is driving his ego. He's striving and trying to perform and get noticed. And really that's just a dangerous path to go down towards. But it's a huge part of Anakin becoming Darth Vader, is with that pride and that ego, and that is kind of what that's what pushes him over, on top of being a very passionate man. You see that in Attack of the Clones as well. You see him become very passionate and extreme. You see he's very emotional, that he has a very, very big heart, and that he's very protective, especially of the people he loves. We see that with Padme and with his mom. And again, those are two examples where we see some extreme things happen, and I know you'll want to talk more about those too, but so I think this movie is just so integral and important to the Star Wars story, because really Star Wars is about the Skywalker family. It's about Anakin Skywalker, and this movie's pivotal in his transition to becoming Darth Vader. Yeah, and
for me, I always think about how Anakin becomes Vader. So yes, it's Anakin's story, but really it's just pointing to episodes 4, 5, and 6 for him as Darth Vader. And even though I love the prequels aren't like the main story. It started with the OT, and the prequels led up to that.
They just make the OT better.
Yeah, and every decision in the prequels is to support what exists in the OT. So always looking at it through that lens as well. In Attack of the Clones, you're seeing that transition to the dark side in Anakin. And specifically you see this conflict with him and Padme, and this love and joy that they have, but it's held in secrecy, and it's not supposed to be happening. It's forbidden. Right. But then at the same time, you have the relationship with him and his mother, and he finds out what happened to her basically after he left Tatooine, and how she got taken by Tusken Raiders, and then he goes and he slaughters them all, this whole village. And so again, you see this conflict where it's not only is he doing things in secret and he's doing things that are forbidden, it's creating this conflict within him, where at the same time he's supposed to be following the Jedi Order, but he's not. He's yes, he's a great Jedi by skill, but in terms of discipline, he's not. And then you have Palpatine grooming him, and Palpatine seeding distrust and evil and darkness within him. And so for me, all of that kind of culminates in this very troubled character of Anakin Skywalker in this movie. And I like it a lot because there is a massive time jump in between the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. So when you see him, you're like, this is a totally different person.
Right.
But I like that because it's jarring. You see, okay, really young Annie in the Phantom Menace, and then a completely different person 10 years later. And I think a lot of us can relate with that. We're like, oh yeah, I remember my childhood. And then all of a sudden I became like this person.
Right.
But everything Anakin does is in extremes.
Yep.
And so it's really interesting for me to see all of that play out in this movie. And I guess even addressing, something that usually people say they hate in particular about this movie is Anakin and his dialogue. And I don't think that it's bad. That's actually part of what contributes to me liking him, because I think that his dialogue in Attack of the Clones in particular is intense for a reason.
Yes.
And we've had other videos and other discussions and live streams about this in more detail, but essentially he hasn't had a method of processing this. He hasn't had a method of being able to communicate with anybody, because everyone around him has basically said, hey, ignore your feelings. you have to get rid of those. You have to break attachments, all of this.
And that's easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when for the first 9 years of your life, that was something that was normal, was to have attachments. And then one day be like, yeah, you can't have those. Like, that just doesn't go away.
Yeah. And, he would go to his mom, and I'm sure being a kid, he would probably cuddle with his mom, hang out and play with her and talk to her, eat with her every single night. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, don't think about your mom anymore. And he's thinking about her all the time. And he just suppresses it. And he's thinking about Padme all the time, and because he says, he's like, are you an angel? He's like, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And, for years and years and years, he thinks about her. And then when he's finally there, then he has Obi-Wan writing him, and he has the council writing him. And so he has all this stuff going on. And I think in terms of his dialogue, when that starts coming out, it doesn't bother me. Actually, the more I watch it, the more I'm like, okay, I don't think it's, some people's critiques will be it's wooden, or they'll say it's cheesy and all this, or creepy. But I'm like, I don't think so. I just don't see it. I just see it as a very troubled, passionate 19-year-old. That's what I see, who has killed a lot of people. Yeah. And he's been in war. Yep. And
that's hard to process. Can't imagine.
It makes sense to me. It 100% does.
And I think, too, we have to remember, think about us as teenagers and, the cheesy things that you've said or that I've said, just thinking in general, the things we've said. And it's like, man, I'm glad I was not recorded. And I think we're just seeing that process of Anakin because we're seeing his life develop. And so we're seeing him make the mistakes. We're seeing him have these cheesy pickup lines and, these things that we've probably all done, maybe not exactly the same. But ours weren't broadcast. And so I think it's part of his development, and it's part of how he becomes who he is.
Yeah. And, not only that, with us living as teenagers, at the same time, it's like none of us have been told you're the one who's going to bring order to the galaxy. You're the one who's going to save literally every single person that is existing. Oh, but by the way, you're not allowed to have any feelings, any connections.
And you can't be a Jedi Master because we're worried about you.
Yeah. You're too troubled. And so
I'd be confused too.
It makes sense, bro. It really does.
Yep.
So do you have any, that's pretty much it for me. I'll get off my soapbox about Anakin. But all of that, let me just say this.
We love Anakin, if you can't tell.
That's why I love it. And I don't understand the hate for it, just because I'm like, if you don't like it, whatever. But I'm like, I think he's a really well-written character. But do you have anything final to say about Anakin in Attack of the Clones?
I think the only thing I have to add is I'm actually impressed with how much we covered in kind of a short amount of time. Yeah. But the only thing I have to add is, we love Anakin. That's why we're making these videos. And we love talking about the positive things about Anakin and the prequels and the OT. So, yeah, we love Anakin, and that's why we're doing this.
Yeah. And so let us know in the comments how you, preferably how you love Anakin. But it's like, let us know what you think about Anakin in Attack of the Clones. Because even if you don't see eye to eye with us, I would love to chat with you in the comments, show you a little deeper from our point of view. But anyway, with that, we are two Star Wars nerds, and may the Force be with you always.